imagine that you're walking down the street and somebody honks at you, draws attention to your physical appearance. Like probably every other woman in this room, and maybe even some men, I've had this experience. How does it make me feel? Well, to be totally honest, it doesn't make me feel all that good. Kind of makes me feel like a piece of meat. It's not a pleasant experience. And there's research demonstrating why this experience is so unpleasant. In the literature, this is a phenomenon that's referred to as sexual objectification. And that research overwhelmingly demonstrates that the effects of sexual objectification are harmful for women. Now, I should note that men do experience objectification, but to a much lesser extent than women. And when they do experience objectification, the effects tend to be less harmful than they are for women. But for women, they're pretty detrimental. The research demonstrates that objectified women report higher levels of depression, higher levels of anxiety, and increased incidences of eating disorders. They also demonstrate lower levels of body esteem and self-esteem, and even decreased cognitive functioning. So drawing from this research, we might conclude that we should avoid objectifying women under any circumstances, right? Actually, my work suggests otherwise, and I'm going to tell you about that work today. So despite this prior research, there are evolutionary and psychological-based theories suggesting that women should actually benefit from sexual objectification in some contexts, specifically in the context of romantic relationships. Drawing from an evolutionary perspective, physical attractiveness is incredibly important to relationships. Facial features such as symmetry, clear skin, and bright eyes are not only considered attractive, they're also associated with overall health and genetic quality. And throughout our evolutionary history, individuals with attractive features and thus strong, healthy genes would have been more likely to successfully fight off dangerous pathogens and incidences of disease, and thus been more likely to carry on their genes to future generations. In other words, attractive people make good partners because they're more likely to successfully reproduce, which, according to evolutionary perspectives, is the ultimate goal. And this is particularly true for women. Because women's fertility is steeply age-graded, women's physical attractiveness is more strongly associated with, more tied to reproduction than is men's attractiveness. And consistent with this notion, my colleagues and I have actually demonstrated that women's physical attractiveness plays a larger role in relationship outcomes than men's physical attractiveness. So given the importance of women's physical attractiveness, why does the prior research demonstrate such negative consequences for women when men draw attention to their appearance? One possibility may be the context in which it's been examined. So much of that research, like my earlier example of the honking driver, examines it in the context of male strangers. So I think an important question is, do the effects of sexual objectification differ depending on how psychologically close a woman is to that objectifying man? So I designed a study in my psychology lab to test this question. Specifically, I recruited 41 heterosexual undergraduate women who all indicated that they were involved in a romantic relationship. Now, over the course of 1 week, these women completed an event-based diary where they answered a few questions every time that a man drew attention to her physical appearance or to her sexuality. Now, following each event, women then indicated how psychologically close they were to those men and how positively they felt about themselves. And what I found was that women reported higher levels of self-esteem. They felt better about themselves when psychologically close men such as relationship partners, drew attention to their physical appearance or to their sexuality, compared to when more psychologically distant men, such as male strangers walking across campus, drew attention to their physical appearance. So why do women report higher levels of self-esteem when their partners objectify them compared to when strange men objectify them? Well, one possibility may be the additional information that those relationship partners have about those women. Indeed, when a male stranger draws attention to a woman's physical appearance, he only knows about her physical appearance. In other words, he knows nothing else about that woman other than what she looks like. In contrast, when a close relationship partner, so a psychologically close man, draws attention to a woman's physical appearance, he's presumably doing so in the context of also attending to some of her non-physical qualities. And evolutionary perspectives actually provide further insight into the importance of women's non-physical qualities. Indeed, women's physical attractiveness is not the sole predictor of whether women would make a good relationship partner. Human reproduction, in addition to having strong, healthy genes, would have also been most successful to the extent that women had the qualities, those non-physical qualities, necessary to successfully rear children. So what are some of those qualities? For example, nurturance, kindness, sensitivity. Accordingly, women may benefit the most from sexual objectification to the extent that their partners also attend to their physical qualities. So I tested this idea with another study in my psychology lab. Specifically, I recruited a different sample of 79 heterosexual undergraduate women. Again, all of these women reported that they were involved in a romantic relationship. And upon arrival to the laboratory, I told these women that I had contacted their partner, and I had asked their partner to evaluate them, and to evaluate them on a number of physical qualities, so their level of attractiveness, their sexiness, even their sexual skills, and to also evaluate them on their non-physical qualities, so their supportiveness, their kindness, their sensitivity. Now, I should note here that I didn't actually contact these women's partners. I simply led them to believe that I had contacted their partners. And then I provided them with their partner's ostensible feedback. And now at this point, I randomly assigned women to receive one of 4 combinations of false feedback. So I told one group of women that their partners had rated them incredibly highly on both their physical and their non-physical qualities. I told a second group of women that although their partners had rated them highly on their physical qualities, they only rated them somewhat moderately on their non-physical qualities. I told a third group of women that their partners had rated them moderately on their physical qualities, but quite highly on their non-physical qualities. And I told the fourth and final group of women that their partners had rated them moderately on both their physical and non-physical qualities. Now, following this false feedback, I asked women to indicate how positively they felt about themselves in that moment. And what I found was that women reported higher levels of self-esteem when their partners positively evaluated both their physical and their non-physical domains, compared to when they received somewhat neutral feedback in either or both domains. But simply attending to women's non-physical qualities may not be enough. The extent to which their partner is committed to the long term may also play an important role. So, human reproduction is an incredibly time-consuming phenomenon. In fact, it's more time-consuming than any other mammal. And that time investment actually quite varies between men and women. So whereas women's minimum time investment is 9 months for gestation, and then perhaps many more years to successfully rear their child to a reproductively viable age themselves, men's minimum time investment is a few minutes. Of course, women do benefit to the extent that their partner invests more time in helping them rear their children to a reproductively viable age. So women may benefit the most from sexual objectification in the context of relationships to the extent that their partner is committed to the long term. Now, I have conducted additional research supporting this notion, and interestingly, that research demonstrates that one, these effects are not unique to college-age women, and two, they extend beyond women's self-esteem. Specifically, in a sample of married couples, I've demonstrated that the extent to which their partner values them for both their physical and their non-physical qualities and is committed to the long term benefits the relationships themselves. So to demonstrate this, I had husbands indicate how much they valued their partners for their bodies and for sex. And I asked their wives to indicate how much they believed their partners to be committed to the long term and how satisfied they were with their relationships. And what I found was that women were most satisfied with their marriages to the extent that their partners positively valued them for their bodies and for sex, but only if they perceive their partners to be committed to the long term. So to summarize, despite this prior research demonstrating such negative consequences for women when men draw attention to their physical appearance, my work demonstrates that in some contexts, women can actually benefit from this. Specifically, women with highly committed partners who positively attend to both their physical and their non-physical qualities report higher levels of self-esteem and higher satisfaction with their relationships more generally. So why should you care about this? Well, first and foremost, knowledge is power. Women hear all the time that objectification is bad. They should avoid it at all costs. And what I'm suggesting is that it isn't always bad. Sure, there are contexts in which objectification is harmful for women, but in the context of a committed romantic relationship, valuing a woman for her physical and non-physical qualities can not only benefit the relationships themselves, they can benefit women as a whole. So please, keep this in mind with your own relationships. Keep this in mind as you select relationship partners in the future. Keep this in mind the next time you're walking down the street and somebody honks at you. It could just be your partner. Thank you.